probably 3, 4, 5 damage in a game, maybe more. That's a quarter of your opponent's life total from a 2-drop.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, no, I
Um,
accept that. That makes sense.
so I like this.
Yeah, so probably solid B.
I like this. I think this is like a B minus to B. I wouldn't pick this over much removal. I think that I'd be picking most of the removal spells over this.
We haven't actually like we didn't look at any good 2-drop creatures here really. Like
Uh,
our
there was the uncommon menace creature that was pretty nice.
and then there was also the common bear,
There's the bear. I would pick this over the bear probably.
and that was it, right? That there were no other
Yep.
2-drops.
Yep.
So yeah,
This is I think I would take the
this is
two
good.
one menace over this.
Yes.
Well, actually, I don't know. Because
Um,
this card deals with the 2-1 menace, kind of.
I mean, yeah,
Right?
because it blocks. I
It,
mean,
it, well,
it's the
you
menace,
block. You play this on turn 2, turn 3. You play 2-3. That 2-1's dead forever.
right.
Um, I
And
like
it has
this.
higher upside. Yeah, that's true. Actually, this is probably better than
I
this.
think that this is close to a B. It's like a B minus B in my book.
Yeah, I go with that. That's 2-drop. Okay.
Neuters most 2-drops and deals
Overmaster, why are you still
probably
why didn't you just
3
play
to
that?
6 plus damage in an average game. Not bad. I like it. All right,
Yeah, no,
next.
could be.
Another flip card. Vilden Cat Pack Outcast for 4 and a red.
5 mana for 4/4.
Yep, 5 mana for a 4/4 trample. Pay 1 red and it gets +1 -1. So the water courser effect. What is there a name for this?
Uh, I mean, there was a bunch of like rock slide or whatever. Like there were cards. There were a bunch of cards that did this at one point, but I don't think there's a name for it anymore.
Yeah, there's got to be a name for this. The Morphling effect, right?
Morphling had it both ways though.
Oh, did it?
Yeah,
So the Aetherling effect?
Aethling also had it both ways. You could get +1
Really?
-1 or -1.
Well, whatever. So Morphling did it first. Let's call this the Morphling effect.
Flowstone.
Flowstone. Flowstone. All right.
Flowstone
So it's
is
the
the first one that
Flowstone.
did it, but
All
there's a real
right.
slow
There we
time,
go.
though, no?
There we go. We found it. So it's the Flowstone effect. But yeah. So that's a pretty. Usually it's a strong effect because worst case, like if you're facing down something with 7 toughness, you could just pump it 3 times, and that's not that expensive, and you've suddenly traded a 5-drop for probably an 8-drop. So it gets strong on defense if it needs to trade. It's strong on offense because you can trample over something and push through nasty blockers. So on its face, I would snap play this card in almost probably any red deck, even without the transform.
For 5 mana, it's a little expensive. So
5 mana for a 4/4 trample is fine already.
I think it's fine.
I would still play that, and then
you don't want too many 5-drops.
right, but the ability on it.
Right. I think it's fine.
It's definitely true to say that you don't want too many 5-drops, but this is a pretty solid 5-drop, especially for a common.
I think it's a very solid 5-drop as a common.
Yes. And then you could pay 7. Again, pretty big mana sink. Probably belongs best in red green. But any deck that wants to go into the late game really, really wants this card. And it turns into a 5/7 with trample and just straight up fire breathing for 1 colorless.
Yeah,
that's
colorless. Is
very
really
strong. Because if you think about this, how does your opponent block this?
Not very well.
So they put 3 creatures in front of it, and then they still probably take 5 damage if you have like 6, 7 mana up, because he had 7 mana the last turn.
Yeah, and you can still pay all of that mana.
Right, you can still pay 7 or 8 mana, and then suddenly, you have a 13/7 or a 12/7. How are they blocking that? This is absurd.
It's going to kill other dudes, and it's going to a lot of damage.
Right,
it is very solid.
Really, really nice.
I like this as a top end.
Like this compares favorably to things like Rune Processor. Even though the format's different, I would pick this over Rune Processor every time if I'm in red.
The fact that it's a 5-drop, it's
right,
relevant.
Right.
Rune Processor got you back got you back when you were behind, which I don't think this really does.
Well,
but,
a 4/4 for 5 mana is still good enough to get you back from a lot of situations.
I mean, you're gonna have to block with it probably.
Yeah. Either way, maybe we shouldn't compare those cards. Yeah. But this is solid. I like calling this a B or B minus.
I agree.
This is one of the strongest red commons.
Right.
Let's just call it a B. Honestly, where do you pick this relative to the Thermo Alchemist? I think I would take the Thermo Alchemist more. Higher.
I mean, because it's 2-drop.
Because it's a 2-drop, and because Thermo Alchemist gets better in multiples. This doesn't.
It does not. We really haven't seen a great curve coming out of these red cards. I think.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of like kind of expensive cards and mana sinks,
Yep.
which makes me really not want to have that many 5 drops because I have things to do with my mana, even for my 2 or 3 drops.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Alchemist is much better.
Yeah. This is good though. Let's see. Good top end S for a common. All right, last red card. And which is Weaver of Lightning. 2 and a red for a 1/4 with reach.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I'm happy with that.
So what is the what was that giant from Origins? You know what I'm talking about. The 4 mana 4/3 reach giant. I forget what that was called.
Yeah, I'm
but it's so weird that they're printing that in red now. Anyways, when you cast an instant or sorcery, Weaver of Lightning deals 1 damage to target creature an opponent controls. I mean, this belongs in the same deck as Thermal Alchemist.
Yes, it's on curve, turn 3, but
it doesn't deal damage to players, which is a little depressing. Right, that is what Thermal Alchemist is before, but but there's very few 3-drops that attack through this. There's no 2-drops that attack through this unless they're flipped. There's very few 4-drops that actually attack through this.
The fact that 4 toughness is really relevant. Like the fact that it even has 1 power to just eat things that just go.
Yeah. The fact that it's I think 4 is a really good amount of toughness to have in this format. There isn't a lot at common that attacks through something with 4 that doesn't cost 5 mana or more. Sky Raker, that's what it is.
And this looks at spirit tokens and just laughs, right?
Oh yeah.
I think this is very good.
Yep. And it also makes every shock in the format a lightning bolt. Like maybe that's the crazy thing to think about this. Every single thing that deals 2 damage, that's an instant sorcery. And we've seen multiples of these.
Right.
Turns them all into lightning bolts. Or if they deal 3, it turns them into what deals 4. I forget the card. Flame jab? Is that what it is? Or flame
javelin?
Flame javelin, that's what it is, yeah. I like this. I think this is comparable to Thermo Alchemist. So I would call it a B-B. I think that these, if you see these in the pack, you're going to be like, well, what fits better with my curve?
Yeah, that's true.
Who's on the phone? Aberdasher's on the phone right now. Yep.
Obviously, I think you're more likely to take this because it is removal and because it's uncommon. So if you want the effect, you're more likely to have to take it early. But it is very good. Yeah, Flame Jab is sorcery. It could be Flame Slash also, but Flame Slash.
All right, chat. So we finished red. What do you feel the power level of red is? Let's do a poll. So the options for the poll. Let's just do letter grade. So A, B, C, D, or F. How do you feel about red? And try to consider it in context, considering we've seen white, blue, black. Maybe you weren't here yesterday, but compared to the other colors, maybe you've seen the other spoilers. How do you feel about this? What do you think, Aberdasher?
It's interesting. So I think that the top end in red is actually not like there are some very good cards in the top end in red.
Yes,
for like the best case scenario. You have the alpha. You have a couple of these like deal damage cards. I think that in general it has cards that you definitely want. And the only problem is, of course, those are a lot of them are not splashable, right? They're double red or whatever, which does kind of make me a little less happy about that.
Some of them, yeah, definitely.
But I do think it's still fine. You do have a lot of the cards that you're just perfectly happy to play.
Right. The removal is good, I think. In red,
you have a bunch of shocks. You have
and especially shocks. At uncommon, I think there's going to be some very decent mythic uncommons in red. I like it so far. I think B is about right. Frankly, I've been so far at first glance, it looks like all the 4 colors we've gone through have been on pretty even footing. I wasn't as impressed with blue as chat was. Chat really liked blue.
Yeah,
blue seems to play differently than all the others that I've seen because a lot of the cards really synergize with Emerge in blue.
Not just that, it plays differently than blue used to.
Right.
It's just a very interesting. It's an interesting color this time around.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what turns out with that.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Do you want to stick around for another color, or are you done?
I'm still around.
Cool. And also, I see Moto Grinder in chat. If you want to drop in, feel free as well. I know you said you had mic issues, but I'm sure it's not that bad.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what Mike did to you, but you can just work out the differences.
That was okay, chat. You need to grade that pun. That was pretty good, I thought. That was probably like an A- pun.
Right. So our last color is green, or
last color is green, and then we have multicolor and colorless left. After.
Oh, did we do meld already? Have we discussed?
I've been doing meld as we go. So,
oh yes, the melds.
Yeah, we already did the black meld cards, Graph Rats and Midnight Scavengers.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah. Anyways, moving on. Backwoods Survivalist. So we are in the land of green now. 3 and a green mana for a 4/3. Well, in green, that's like about what we expect.
Yeah.
Pun convinced you to not Skype in.
So compared to in Battle for Zendikar, I think 4/3 is much better.
What's that?
4/3 is better here than it was in Battle for Zendikar, I think.
Yes, I agree.
So I think that we definitely want in context. I think this is a better card than we were used to.
Yep.
And I think so that's great.
Especially remember poor Brood Hunter Worm. May he rest in peace.
Right.
Poor Brood Hunter Worm. That was, this is much better than that in context, especially with the Delirium. Oh, yes. I'm wondering how easy it's going to be to get Delirium in the set. It feels less focused to me.
I mean, yes, we definitely have less. So part of that problem is that we don't get clues anymore, right? So the way you get Delirium, you often have to discard cards to get there, and then clues would get you back up, right?
Yeah.
And so that means that even if the Delirium Nibblers are still here, maybe that's not as good to do. Mm-hmm. But this is still a fine payoff if you have it, right? 4 mana for a 5/4 trample, very happy with that. How
would you compare? Well, first of all, what would you grade Solitary Hunter? And how would you grade this compared to it? So because Solitary Hunter, when I graded it, actually, we can go back and check. It's too much effort, but I don't think I graded it as high as I should have.
Yes.
Because Solitary Hunter, I think I graded it as a C plus B minus. It's probably my guess as to where I graded it. I think it's closer to a B.
Right.
This is not that.
Yeah.
Sure.
This is different. Like this is
far from Solitary Hunter.
It's not. It doesn't have the upside, and the downside is slightly higher, I guess, because of the fact that it's 4/3.
Yeah. Would you rather have also another question? Would you rather have a 4/3 or a 3/4 in this format?
I think I would rather have a 4/3. 3/4 is very relevant as a blocker, but I think that we haven't looked through green entirely yet. But I feel like having 4 power is going to be pretty relevant.
Well, I think that having the 4th power is not as relevant as having the 4th point of toughness, though.
Agreed, because a lot of things have 3 power.
Because a lot of things seem to have 3 power.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is why, I don't think this is as good as it looks, maybe? I don't know. I think that this might be a C+, but I don't think it's in the B range.
No, I don't. I agree with that. Yeah, it's probably not as range.
It seems like unless the cards we see are significantly better than this. I think this is probably a slightly above average common, but not absurdly above average.
Right. Even if Delirium was always on, I think that. If it was a 5/4 trample when it came down, holy shit, that would be really good. I think that it wouldn't be just like straight up like A, right? So. Given that that's not always going to be on?
No, it wouldn't be. No, it would be if it was always a 5/4 trample for 4 mana, it would probably be a B or a B plus.
Yeah, and given that, and that's not always going to be on. So I think that
right. In fact, I think it's relatively rarely going to be on in this set
so
compared to Shadows. Yeah. Again, that's all spitballing. We don't know for sure, but I think C plus is where it belongs. Seems above average, but Delirium. But it depends on how easy Delirium is to get. Hey, Chatable, how are you doing?
So, Bloodbriar enables Delirium.
Yep.
Well, no, it doesn't. It's whenever you sacrifice. Sorry, I thought it was sacrifice.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not recurring.
This is filler. But if you have enough sacrifice outlets, this suddenly becomes very strong.
Oh, yes.
I think this is close to a build around. Because, you could play a 2/3 for 3, and it's fine. But you're not excited.
It makes me wish I had Eldrazi Silence.
Maybe there is a standard place for this.
Yeah.
Maybe, oh, man. What if you play this as a second win condition with Zulaport Cutthroat?
Oh yeah, man.
right?
It just suddenly I
Oh
have. I
wow!
mean, it's
Suddenly, oh man, this goes in the Coco combo deck.